Welcome back, friends, to the shop on a very chilly Sunday afternoon. The day we've all been waiting for. Today we're going to surface the ultimate bench top. This is going to be exciting. I love seeing how when you laminate things together, how it turns out. You can't really tell when it's all uneven and you got the glue. Yeah, do you see the glue sticking out? So several of you pointed out the huge mistake that I made. When I would spend all that trouble, like the water and wiping off the glue, that was actually the bottom, remember? I put the numbers down when I was stacking everything because I was in a panic. I didn't even realize it. So now it was kind of all for naught, but at least the bottom's gonna be very clean now. So we have a lot of glue to deal with in resurfacing this. So let's go take a look at our tools. We have to choose what's gonna be the best way to do this, keeping in mind the whole time what you may have at home or what you may have access to. That's going to dictate what we do today, and it may not be the hand plane. So my original plan, or my original thought, was to use the hand plane. And of course, what could be better and more appropriate than the big Stanley number 8? That would be a great smoothing plane over that big area. But I got to thinking about it. How many of you guys are going to have access to something like this? And even if you do, maybe if you're just getting started, you probably haven't a lot of experience with sharpening and setting it up, and it's just something that's just probably not very realistic for most guys. If you do have this, then absolutely use it. If you have this and you know how to sharpen it, you don't need to be watching this video about how to make a workbench because you probably know more about it than I do. What's going to make the most sense, and I think it's going to be what's going to be the most accessible for most guys, is going to be a belt sander. A belt sander is going to be very well suited to do this and should get it done pretty quickly, especially if we use a really aggressive belt like a 36 grit right here. Now, if you don't have a belt sander and you've just got an orbital sander, you can totally do it with an orbital sander as well. Don't tell me you can't, because I sanded my entire floor in my house. That was the whole downstairs with this very sander right here. So if I can do that, you can sand a countertop. When it comes to tools, let me give you some advice. If you borrow something, even if it's from a relative or your brother or neighbor, whoever, always bring it back in better condition than you got it. I know it sounds obvious to a lot of guys, but I'm surprised on how many people don't understand this. There are people that we have in our life, even some that I would consider marginal friends, because that have borrowed things that I won't loan out again. The wood splitter comes to mind, right? So if you want to really endear yourself to someone, and I don't care what it is, if it's just think about it. If you're going to go and borrow your neighbor's belt sander, when you bring it back, you bring it in better condition. Clean it up, wash it off, blow it out, and give him some added value, right? Go down to the store and give him a brand new case of belts or something, so that when he gets something back from you that he loaned to you, that he gets something in return as well. It's clean, it's been taken care of, he's got a whole bunch of belts that he didn't have to buy, and he's going to think about that every time he thinks about the tool, and every time he thinks about you, versus just the opposite. And let's see what we have here for belts. We have a 36. I wish I had two. That'll be a good start there. It looks like we've got what are these here? Maybe some 60s, 36, 60s, and looks like some 120s. So that will be pretty good. That's a pretty good trifecta right there. Now, a sanded surface is not going to look near as nice as a hand plane surface, of course, but you know, you always have the option of doing it afterwards, right? Letting the belt sander do the heavy lifting, and then we can plane that down. But the reality of it is it's just going to get beat up anyway. But we'll nice to get started off on the right foot. With the sanding all done, we want to put a chamfer on the corners because they're very vulnerable being sharp like that. Anything we drag across it or bump it in it, it will break the corner off. So if we can put a nice 45-degree angle on there, that'll make it a lot more, make the edge a lot more durable. I'm going to use a small block plane to put the chamfer on there. If you don't have a plane, just get yourself a block of wood and a piece of sandpaper. So it's a straight edge and you can go across there if you're careful and basically get the same thing. Let's take a look at our work here. So first off, you might be asking, how come the edges, I'm leaving the edges like this? I'm going to take a saw and cut those clean, but not yet. I've had problems in the past with letting this dry out, these things dry out too fast. And you can see here from the mill, they have a nice a wax protected on there. Now your wood is going to dry from the ends. That's why if a log that you put on the ground for firewood, if you don't cut it into rounds, it will stay wet for years. Imagine wood just like a bundle of straws put together, and they only dry out primarily from the ends. So if you were to cut this off and to not treat that, then this will all split and crack. What you want is you want your wood to dry very, very slow. If you want to go ahead and cut these off, you can just make sure you cover them with a wax. Melt it and paint it on there, or just paint it. A couple good heavy coats of paint, and that will protect it. I'll let this sit for I'd probably a couple years before I cut it, just to be safe, and that will really prevent it from splitting. But man, it sure turned out nice. This is why I was telling you guys it's so important to have clean holes on here, because doesn't that look nice? Those clean edges and not torn out. And even though this is just regular 2x4 from Home Depot, if you take your time and get your joints right, it will really look nice. Here you can see we did the focus there. We did the chamfer on there, and that's going to make that a lot more durable, but it is really pretty. The top turned out great. I hardly have any voids at all. The few that we have are filled with glue, but this is pretty tight. I mean, for not having any clamps, it's actually turned out really, really good. I'm really proud of it. How nice will that be? Have a nice bench like that to clean your guns on, or just to do projects. It's going to be super sturdy. It's not going to be moving around on you, flexing. It's just pretty. So I decided to use Danish oil on this. Boiled linseed oil would be just as good as option. In the last couple of years, I kind of really enjoy the Danish oil. It nourishes the wood. Just to give you an example, that bottle I poured on, that was 2/3 of a bottle, and there's just almost nothing left. It's all just drinking it in. And I'll just stay with it here and just keep moving it around, and I'm watching. The wood will tell you what it needs. You'll see that one portion of it will just be really thirsty, and it'll drink it up, and I'll spread another layer over there, and I'll keep working it around, and I'll spend about an hour here just keep using a Bondo scraper, just keep moving it around until it absorbs that whole can, and that will that's going to make the wood really, it's going to nourish it, replenish it with oils. It's going to be it's going to sink deep into the grain, and it's going to be much less likely to stain if we spill something on it. And the nice thing about boiled linseed oil or Danish oil is you can reapply it. It's not like a poly that's a plastic that sits on top of the wood. It actually goes into the wood fibers and nourishes it. Not bad for a pile of 2x4s, is it? That is so pretty. That turned out so good. The all thread pulled everything tight. I just couldn't be happier. I just couldn't be happier. It just turned out beautiful. That's something that I'm going to enjoy. You build something like that, you hand it down to your kids, they're going to enjoy it. They're going to remember and talk about you, about how, you know, building something that lasts is one of the most satisfying things that we can do here. So that's probably about all the time we have for today. Next time we'll do the legs. It's going to be fun. We'll get the vise all mounted up. That's really going to be nice, and we'll build a leg stretcher. We're not going to buy the metal one. It was too expensive for what it was. I'll show you how to make one out of those extra 2x4s. But that's probably about it. Some of the guys were griping a little bit about the series dragging on and taking too long. You know, I've never been about trying to get everything done in one video. It's always been about having you guys come and hang out and just kind of doing it at the speed it takes to do it. And you know, when I come in and I work on it for an hour or two, and I've got other things to do. I don't have all day to dedicate to these projects. So and plus I have a short attention span, and I get bored. So I like to work on something for a little while, then I'll move and go do other things. The other things that I do are not all that interesting, so I don't often share them. But obviously the guys complaining about that were from the East Coast. So, you know, no big surprise there, right? All right, well, thanks for watching. Keep us in your prayers. May God bless you and your families. And we'll see you guys on the next video.